Hi folks, it's Mike Murphy. This is part 2 of a Tailscale tutorial. In part 1, I showed you how to set up a private Tailscale network, and in this part 2, I'm going to show you how to use it. After part 1, Tailscale was set up on my iPhone, MacBook Pro, and Hostinger VPS. So now all of my devices can talk to each other over this private Tailscale network. What can you actually do with it? I am going to show you how you can set up your own AI-powered chat interface that lives on your Hostinger VPS. This chat interface is going to work just like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, etc. Only this is going to be 100% private, secure. It is available to you 24/7 because it is on your Hostinger VPS, and it is completely free. Well, you're just paying for your VPS subscription, but the LLM that is powering your chat interface is free, and because of your Tailscale network, you will be able to access your VPS, and so will any agents that you use like OpenClaw, Hermes, etc. In addition to your Hostinger VPS or virtual private server, there are 3 main tools that you are going to need in order to follow along in this tutorial. Number 1, you must have a Tailscale network set up. And if you don't have that yet, there's a link in the description to my tutorial part 1 of Tailscale where I walk you through how to set up Tailscale and add it to your devices. The second tool that you are going to install in a Docker container on your Hostinger VPS is called Open WebUI. Open WebUI is the dashboard. This is going to give us an interface so we can actually chat with LLM models. And what's cool about Open WebUI is you can connect it to just about any LLM model that you want. It just gives you that interface the ability to have a chat window so you can type in text prompts. Ollama, which you must also have installed in a Docker container on your VPS, is the engine and the brain behind the AI-powered chat system. Tailscale is what keeps this entire AI-powered chat system completely secure and private. This tutorial assumes that you already have Tailscale installed on your VPS, and if you don't, go watch part 1 where I walk you through how to do that. It's super easy to do. I'm going to also assume that most of you already have Ollama installed on your VPS. Also a link in the description if you need to know how to install Ollama. I'll show you how to get Open WebUI so you can install it on your VPS in a Docker container, and I'll also show you how I'm going to do it using Claude Code. Install or deploy Open WebUI and Ollama on your Hostinger VPS. You can find both of them in the Hostinger Docker catalog. So when you sign into Hostinger, go to the sidebar, click on Docker Manager Catalog. If you do a search for Open, you will find Open WebUI. Just click the deploy button. Same for Ollama, Ollama. There you will find Ollama. Both Ollama and Open WebUI need to join your Docker network, which you should already have set up. If you don't have a Docker network set up, so all of your Docker containers can talk to each other, link in the description on how you can set that up. And you also want Ollama and Open WebUI to only be available internally on your VPS. So in the Docker Compose YAML files or the blueprints for Ollama and Open WebUI, they're going to look pretty light compared to some of your other ones like N8N because you do not need all of the traffic labels since you're not going to expose these externally or publicly. So you're not going to be setting up SSL certificates. You do not need a subdomain. You're not going to be using your custom domains, but you do want to make sure that you join the Docker network. If you use Claude Code to remotely connect to your Hostinger VPS using SSH, well, you can just ask Claude Code to install any Docker container that you want. And you can have Claude Code connect all of your Docker containers to the Docker network. And if you don't have a Docker network, well, yeah, you could ask Claude Code to set up your Docker network. First, I'm going to launch Claude Code. Now I'm going to ask Claude to connect to my Hostinger VPS over SSH. Claude knows what to do, so I can just say, please connect to my Hostinger-VPS via SSH. Claude's envisioning. Connecting to your Hostinger VPS now. Connected, VPS is running. What would you like to do on it? I actually have 2 different skills. One skill, VPS Docker, is when I want Claude to install or deploy a Docker container that is externally facing. So when I want to use a custom domain and be able to access it over the internet, or I have an internal one, which I'm going to use today when I want Claude to deploy a Docker container, but I want it to keep it private or internal only. I'll say Docker internal to install Open WebUI in a Docker container and join the Docker network called AppNet. That is the name of my Docker network. Yours might be different. I will be using Open WebUI with Ollama, so please confirm they are both on the same network. I'm just going to tap return. Containers up. Now verifying they're both on the same network, just like I asked. Everything is up and confirmed. Here's a summary. Easy as that. So Open WebUI is going to be available on port 8080, which you're going to need when you're connecting it via Tailscale. Ollama is always available on ports 11434. As you can see here from Claude, both containers are on my Docker network called AppNet, and they can reach each other by DNS using these names. Open WebUI will talk to Ollama directly over the internal network only. Claude is confirming that Open WebUI is internal only service, so there are no traffic labels, no subdomains set up. If I want to access the Open WebUI interface, Claude is saying I could SSH tunnel in, or we can use our Tailscale network, which is a private network. So we're basically tunneling in using our Tailscale network. Pretty cool. Now I'm going to connect to my Hostinger VPS and just confirm that Ollama and Open WebUI are running on my VPS and connected to the same Docker network. I've signed into my Hostinger dashboard. I'm going to go in the top right corner and click on Terminal. I'm going to clear out the terminal window by just typing clear. First, I'm going to check the statuses of all of my Docker containers on the VPS. So I'm going to type in Docker space PS. PS stands for process status. I'm going to tap return. There I can see Open WebUI, and this is really what we're looking for, the status. We want to make sure that it is up or running. And there I can see Ollama. Also, status is set to up, so we're good to go there. Now look for the shared Docker network on your VPS. To do that, you can do Docker space network space ls for list. So we want to list the Docker networks, and there I can see AppNet. That is the name of my Docker network. Now I'm going to inspect the Docker network that I call AppNet and just confirm that Open WebUI and Ollama have joined the same network. So to do that, I'll do Docker space inspect space network space, and now just type in the name of your Docker network. So for me, app-net, tap return. First, confirm the name of your Docker network. For me, that is AppNet. So I am inspecting the correct network. And to see which Docker containers are on the Docker network, scroll down until you see the section called Containers. Every container that you see listed here is on the Docker network. So I've got N8N, Traffic, there's Ollama, Obsidian, Streamlit, and there is Open WebUI. And one really important concept that I want to point out to you about Docker containers and Docker networks on your VPS. The name of the Docker container is how each of the other Docker containers call each other. So when Open WebUI wants to reach out and talk to Ollama, Open WebUI is just going to put Ollama, and then the port number that Ollama is sitting on, which is 11434. And same thing, if Ollama wants to call Open WebUI, well, Ollama is going to enter Open WebUI 8080. In your Hostinger VPS dashboard, if you go to Docker Manager, Projects, there you're going to see all of your Docker projects. If you go to Open WebUI, click on Manage, open up the YAML editor. This is going to show you your Docker Compose YAML file. This is the blueprint for Open WebUI. And in your Docker Compose YAML file, you should see the Ollama base URL, which we just saw. This is how Open WebUI is going to call Ollama. In addition to the Ollama base URL, in the Open WebUI Docker Compose YAML file, you also want to make sure that you have the ports listed. Now, typically, Open WebUI is on port 8080. This is going to punch a hole or make a tunnel through the Open WebUI Docker container so our Tailscale road can go through and access Open WebUI. I have already confirmed that Open WebUI, Ollama, and my other Docker containers are on my Docker network, but you should always see your Docker networks listed in the Docker Compose YAML files for any containers that are on your network. Now, in the Ollama Docker Compose YAML file, you do not need to list the port 11434 like we did with Open WebUI listing 8080. That is because Tailscale does not need to reach Ollama. Tailscale just needs to reach Open WebUI, and Open WebUI is talking to Ollama so it can service the large language models from Ollama. All of the Ollama large language models that you download on your VPS, they will all be available in Open WebUI so you can switch through different models easily, and all of those models are all stored in an external Docker volume, which you will see in the Ollama Docker Compose YAML file. Now it's time to check and confirm that the Tailscale network is up and running. So in the VPS terminal, we're going to run the simple command tailscale status, and that is going to show you every device that is on your Tailscale network that is able to connect to the VPS and use Open WebUI to chat with the Ollama models. To check the status of your Tailscale network, just to confirm that all your devices are able to connect to your Hostinger VPS, in the VPS terminal, I'm just going to type tailscale space status, tap return, and this should list all devices that are currently connected to my Tailscale network. How about that? Hostinger VPS is my VPS. Notice it's got the Linux operating system, my iPhone, iOS, and my MacBook Pro, Mac OS. Remember the Ollama base URL. When the Docker containers want to talk to each other, they just use the Docker container's name as the DNS setting. So Ollama : the port number, and the same with your Tailscale devices. You can just put the device name : and the port number, and that will connect so you don't have to remember the Tailscale IP addresses. Drum roll, please. It is now time to see if we can connect to Open WebUI over the Tailscale network. So I can use either my phone or my MacBook Pro. Since Open WebUI is on our VPS, well, we want to connect to the VPS. And the way that we can do that, we can either enter in the Tailscale IP address, or we can put in the magic DNS name, which is a whole lot easier. So we can see here, hosting your VPS, that shows the VPS, what we're connecting to. We're going to put a colon, and then we're just going to put the port number of Open WebUI, which is 8080. My iPhone is connected to my Tailscale network. I have a browser window open. I'm just going to type in http:// Hostinger-VPS. That is the name of my Hostinger VPS on the Tailscale network. I'm going to put a colon and then the port number of Open WebUI. Remember, that is in the Docker Compose YAML file. That's 8080. We're going to cross our fingers, tap return, and we should connect to Open WebUI. We are connected. Bingo. I just want you to realize that we are not connected to Open WebUI over the internet. We are connected through a tunnel with Tailscale being the road that is getting us to the Open WebUI, which lives on our VPS, so we can access it 24/7, securely encrypted. It is totally private. Now let's try to connect to Open WebUI in a web browser on my MacBook Pro. Same thing, http:// I'm going to type in Hostinger VPS, this is the magic DNS, the device name, colon 8080. Tap return. How about that? And now let's check out Open WebUI. I'll click Get Started. Forward new path, click Get Started. I'm going to enter name, email, and password, and then click Create Admin Account. You are now in Open WebUI. Click OK, let's go. How about that? We can now chat with our VPS from anywhere in the world on any device that is connected to our Tailscale network. Are you seeing how cool this is? So here's the current model from my VPS that is being served in Open WebUI. So this is what we're going to chat with, Llama 3.2. If I want to change it, I can go to the top left corner. This is a list of all the models that I currently have on my VPS. Chat, search, notes, workspaces, folders, chats, so much you can do with Open WebUI. This is not a simple chat interface. This is a full-fledged, powerful application. If you go to the bottom left corner, you'll see your profile. A little green dot tells us we're connected. I'm going to click Settings. This is hard to see, but in the bottom left corner, you'll see Admin Settings. If we go to Connections, there we're going to see that we are connected to our VPS at the Ollama :11434. If we go to Models, this is going to list all of our Ollama models. These are what's stored in our Docker volumes on the VPS. So I've got a couple Llama 3.2 models in Nomic and MedTech. Let's jump back to the Hostinger VPS. I'm going to do Ollama pull. I'm going to pull in Gemma 3 1B. So I'll just tap Return. That's pulling in the Ollama large language model Gemma 3 1B. Back in Open WebUI. I'm just going to refresh. And how about that? The model that we just installed is now available in Open WebUI. It might not be as blazing fast as Claude or OpenAI because you're running it on your VPS, but you have a full-fledged LLM and you can experiment with the different Ollama models until you get a model that runs pretty quick. That wasn't so bad. So now my iPhone, my MacBook Pro are connected to my Hostinger VPS remotely and securely over the Tailscale network, chatting with Open WebUI interface powered by Ollama models. So here I am on my phone. What year was the ancient Roman Empire? I'm going to click Send on my phone. Let's see if it shows up in the browser. I can see it spinning over here. We've got chat history on the phone, the exact same thing. Pretty cool. We did not even scratch the surface. But this little system, Tailscale, Open WebUI, Ollama, this is very, very powerful. You have your own AI system in full control on your server. It runs 24/7, completely private, completely secure, completely free. You are only paying for the subscription to your VPS. When you hear people talking about getting Mac Minis and Mac Studios so they can run local large language models 24/7, that's exactly what we did on the VPS. You have a 24/7 AI server that you can access from any device completely for free, and you can also feed it agents. So Hermes, OpenClaw, any agents that you're building, they can access all of your local large language models that you are serving privately and securely on your own VPS. Well, that is how you can set up your own private, secure, AI-powered chat interface using Tailscale, Open WebUI, Ollama, all done on your Hostinger VPS. My name is Mike Murphy, your AI handyman. Cheers.